Since we're in the ideas section, let's talk some tangible stuff. I made some moves this week. I bought a lot of Bitcoin actually. Um, like I'm probably
Nice.
oh God, I'm probably 65% allocated at this point. And also like thinking that like I might cut that pretty quickly
Yeah, you got to be
because
clear. I
I
think when you say this, you got to be clear on what your time horizon is.
well, look, I think if your time horizon is far, then like I honestly think that you should be like probably half allocated here because your downside is like 50K. You know, your downside is, you know, 30%, which is nothing in crypto land. And your upside is like a 10x, right?
Yeah.
So as you zoom out, like that risk reward gets, it's pretty skewed to the upside. So as long as you're not levered long and just totally going nuts. Buying here, I think is interesting. I'm kind of curious, like how this ends up aging over the next week. But you know, like over the weekend, we had this buildup, which you can see a little more clearly, maybe on a lower time frame chart. But we had this buildup around this weekly low, and right here was where everybody was, you know, including me, was remarking about like how strong crypto was, right? And then of course we get the nuke, and I posted a meme like the day before about this happening, right? And obviously it happened. So
How low did it get on that little nuke there?
we tagged 74K, which is almost the prior all-time high, right? Which I had as like a very, very key level to buy. But anytime you run a quarterly level like that, anytime you nuke a bunch of this liquidity, you know, if you look on the lower time frame and you start seeing signs of price accepting back inside that range of putting in some like bullish market structure shifts, I mean, you could be looking at some pretty good upside. And I think the market wants to go up, right? So a lot of this is a question of like how much daylight will the Trump admin give? But like even in the short to medium term, how much more downside is there with most stocks down like 30%? Bitcoin just up greatly versus the NASDAQ, showing a tremendous amount of relative strength versus like how quickly this thing can rip back into the 90s. You know, so I'm kind of mentally like allocating some of it for the long term, but also a lot of this for like a swing trade. I think the crash ultimately is going to be a two-part story. I think part one is the tariffs, and then there's the relief rally on the realization that made tariffs, like after all of the pain that's been priced in, might not be as bad as people think. But then there's part two of the story, which is still this sort of like very fundamental problem with, you know, this kind of debt air pocket we have down the road and all these other just like super ingrained issues in the world economy, which is why, you know, everybody's talking about doing this Mar-a-Lago Accord and basically like resetting everything, right? So I think there's a trade before the Mar-a-Lago Accord. And then I think there's probably another get out of Dodge. And then there's sort of like the event that drives the Mar-a-Lago Accord. And or maybe that is this event, right? Maybe we do just drive straight into that and we're having that meeting in a couple of weeks and everything moves super, super quickly. But I think that where Bitcoin is, right, and how easy it is to get out to the downside right now versus like the upside reward, it feels like a place to be positioned long, especially because like if this does end up being like a really, really significant like bear market rally, it's going to be so painful for you to sit there on the sideline and watch this thing rally to like the 90s or like 100, or God forbid we put in one of those kind of like another like double top formation, right? Like this price action here right now, it reminds me so much of the summer 2021 price action where you have this kind of like sell off into this sort of like falling wedge type thing. Because if you look back in 2021 here, it's basically what we did, right? We had this nuke into this kind of falling wedge. And let me tell you, like right about here, people were losing their shit. Like this looked awful right here, right? Like you were sitting right here before the breakout.
That's weird.
This looked like it was going to zero, right? Like if I pulled up this chart, you'd be like,
it's the same as today's area.
I know. I know. And, history doesn't repeat, but it often does rhyme. So I sometimes like to just position at these inflection points just to avoid getting caught with my pants down if stuff goes the other way and just feeling like I have to force myself into an entry. Yeah, I've been like a huge buyer. I got a lot of size in kind of in the high 76s. Nibbled a little bit at 80 and obviously underwater on that from the weekend, but deployed a lot in the 70 kind of 76 range and Bitcoin. And I think crypto in general is kind of an interesting trade here because crypto tends to front run everything, right? Like crypto died way before the stock market did. And it's probably going to come back way before the stock market does. And if you pull up some of these alt charts, like, well, I think a lot of them ultimately will end up lower. Like many of them are trading at very interesting levels after having just nuked like ungodly percentages, Like I'm not long Solana and I don't know if I'm going to take a position in Solana, but Solana is probably a good example of this because you basically had this just insane move, right? Percent basically straight down.
Wait, Solana went down to double digits? Is that what I'm seeing?
That's right. The prophecy was achieved. Double digit soul. But you're looking at an asset that's down like nearly 70%, right? That's just swept like a massive amount of liquidity in like this kind of pretty juicy zone. And if you just think about stuff in terms of ranges, right? High and a low and price just going to the mid range of your high and your low, which is just some basic stuff. I mean, for something like Solana, that's a 100% move for mean reversion.
Yeah.
Right. And these are the types of moves that trap people because they're sort of thinking in absolute terms like, oh my God, it's up 100%. The bull market's back. But like 100% doesn't mean anything in isolation. Like, where is it coming from? How big was that range to start with? Like, you get a range like this, an 100% move is just a mean reversion bounce, right? But one man's mean reversion bounce is another man's like super, 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 super juicy trade. And if there is a relief window, like you bet your ass some of this crypto shit is like absolutely going to go on a freaking tear. And the risk reward of shorting Solana in like the double digits right now is just not good. Could it go lower? Sure. Anything is possible. But like, where do I want to be, long or short? Like if I had to pick a side, like I want to be long. And if there's an asset class I want to be long in, it's not stocks, it's crypto. Like if I'm going to take shorter term trades, because if the selling is over, it's going to be over in crypto first. And if the selling is over in crypto first, within crypto, it's going to also be over in some of the shittier altcoins first, right? Because much like people sell their crypto before stocks, well, people sell their Solana before they sell their Bitcoin. They sell their dog with hat before they sell their Bitcoin, right? So even within crypto, you have a bunch of stuff that is probably looking really, really juicy. And we could go here for a long time, and I could pop up like a bunch of juicy charts. But I'll give you one more for the fam. And this is Hype. You're familiar with Hyperliquid, right?
Yeah, the trading platform.
Yeah. So I bought a bunch of Hyperliquid 1040. Told the Discord the other day. I mean, still pretty close to the entry price. Hype is a really interesting one for me. I mean, the entire chart is basically framed around like one monthly candle at this point. It's a pretty new coin, right? So it's the December monthly candle. It's this candle here. We just took the December low, December high sitting up here, $35 or so. Yeah, $35. So this is sort of like the price history for Hyper. So kind of a bottom of a range type deal from a price action perspective, but from like a fundamentals perspective, if you'll entertain me to be a fundamentalist for a second.
Yeah, I would love to hear some of this.
Hype is it's a great product, right? Now, I very much think we're in an era of useful applications in crypto, and like we're sort of exiting the era of like nebulous layer one value, right? Cool. How do you value Solana? How do you value Ethereum? Like,
right.
I don't know. Like they're very much meme coins to me. And the Ethereum meme is obviously on a downward trajectory. And even the Solana meme, I don't think is that good, because if you pull up a Solana Bitcoin chart, you're like, why the hell would I own Solana over Bitcoin? But stuff in the application layer looks interesting. And Hyperliquid is the app I use most in crypto. It is a well-built app. It is something that I use even though I have a centralized exchange that I trade on. I still find a lot of utility in trading these sort of on-chain perps. I know a lot of other people do as well. This is going to be so much more than just an exchange in the future. It's kind of like its own layer one. We now have spot Bitcoin on Hyperliquid. So we're going to have all these spot assets on here as well. People are going to be building applications on it. The nearest comp in crypto is probably Binance. Binance probably worth $60-70 billion. I think Hype is trading at about a $4 billion market cap right now. So we're like a 12, 13, 14x or whatever from Binance levels. But the interesting thing about Hype is that it has a buyback, right? Like a lot of the problem with crypto tokens is that these tokens, they don't mean anything, right? Why does the token go up? There's no revenue. It's just, oh, you have governance rights? Like, who cares?
Yeah, there's no equity ownership in the protocol.
Yeah. So the Hyperliquid buyback is like one of the closest things we have in all of crypto to just straight up equity, right? It's a beautiful thing. And if you crunch the buyback numbers, right? If you look at the trading volume on Hype, like what you see is that depending on the estimates you make, I mean, we're 2 to 5 years from buying back the entire supply, right? Which is okay.
That's really good. That's really good.
So if you put some modest, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
I have PTSD on all the, like, doing fundamentals on crypto is something I would have been, I was super interested in this, like back in 2019 or 2020 when I started. It just, there's too many examples of like GMXs or Uniswaps or what have you naming them all. And this is what I was describing earlier when I said, like, I'm very happy buying cash flowing companies. I'm very happy buying Bitcoin, but like as we step further on the risk curve, I just don't know that I like holding this stuff.
This is a cash flowing company. And I would argue that like you probably can't find me any example of a TradFi multiple gone wrong in crypto that wasn't just people just completely fucking bastardizing the TradFi multiple, right? Or you have stuff where like, you know, I remember like Aave back in the day, people were like valuing it on like a PE and they were like, oh, this must be wrong because the number is just way so high. So it's probably different in crypto. But like everything we said that about, the price just came down. The price just came way down.
Yeah, that's my PTSD talking.
Yeah. And look, it's obviously a warranted concern, but like what is the point of buying anything that's like a non-commodity? Like if it doesn't have cash flows, like you're buying a meme coin or you're buying cash flows. You know, and I guess in the TradFi world, we have these like hybrid meme coins / cash flows. You get your Teslas and whatnot. They're basically meme coins, but also like have, you know, something attached to them. But I don't know. Like I think that the future of crypto is a future of cash flow generating apps. And Agreed. I think the sentiment you're sharing is probably why some of this stuff is just going to be like very, very bargain basement, right? Because people have that sentiment, or people in the space already have that sentiment, or they don't have any money. And then people outside of the space like haven't really caught on to that yet. Right. But that's what you want to be. You want to be early to something. And part of the pain of being early is that sometimes you don't know how early you are. And
yeah, I agree. You're right. I think you've identified like a market inefficiency, and that's where you make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, like if you want to kind of put it, just there's all sorts of TradFi metrics, multiples, whatnot that you can put on Hype where you get like a $50 token price, and it's not a crazy stretch at all.
Damn. And I wish I had the energy and enthusiasm to dig in, but like that's long gone. That left in like 2020.
Well, you could just hijack my conviction, I guess.
Yeah, I'll rely on you. And if anyone else in the Discord lazy. Wants to bring any metrics, I'd love to read them.
Yeah. So I've got this alongside Curve in my portfolio, which we've talked about. Curve has honestly been like, you know, you want to talk about a coin that's been looking pretty good at these levels. Stark contrast with the Ethereum chart, right? Like if I pull up the Ethereum chart, you're just like, yep, that thing's still going to triple digits, right? But like I pull up a Curve chart and it looks like something that is in a bottoming process, right? Where the sky is the limit as opposed to there's a bottomless pit in front of you. So that's kind of kind of basically my crypto portfolio at the moment. Is I've got Bitcoin,
Curve,
and I've got
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, Hype, and Curve, and then I'm still like a fart coin enjoyer from time to time because it's just one of the best assets to trade in the entire world. Like the movements are amazing. And as I heard somebody comment today, like one of the funniest things about the asset is it's like the only exclusively retail asset like on planet Earth that has like this sort of volume and movement, because like there's nobody's
serious about that.
Nobody's going to buy Fartcoin, and if they lose money, because if they lose money, they lose their job, right? You can explain that to your boss. Like it's just not happening. So it is this just pure retail phenomenon. It's like a pure retail sentiment indicator. So it's kind of interesting in that regard. And it trades clean. And it gives big moves. And like, dude, like if I pull up the chart right now, I mean, like the Fartcoin S&P chart is looking pretty solid. I have too many names on this thing. My God. It's just not going down, baby.
Look at that.
Strong looking chart. S&P's down like 30%. No problem.
That's crazy.
Doesn't care. Doesn't care. I mean, when were tariffs were Tuesday. We're up. Wow. We're up money. Fartcoin is up currently from the tariff annihilation announcement. So
weird. Make
of that what you will. I'm still hoping to get back in on this kind of in the 30s. I would like another chance at an entry because this is my my full retard coin, if you will. Sorry. I heard we can use the R word again now. But I gotta use it to convey the message. Like if things get turbo stupid again, this is the most turbo stupid. This is
That's a great line.
Again, sorry. I don't mean to offend the audience, but you get the point I'm trying to convey here. So that's your crypto portfolio. You got your Bitcoins, you got your Hype, you got your Curve, and you got your Fart. And I think it covers all the bases. Covers pretty much all the bases for now. I'm sure a new thing will crop up at some point that we gotta get exposed to. But I feel pretty good. Feel pretty good like this.
That's good, man. I like that.